Hello and welcome to this What Do You Want to Watch discussion about our top 10 personal favourite TV shows of 2023. I'm your host, Ashley Hubley. Joining me today, Dylan Blight.
Happy to be here to talk about television.
Yes. So let's just jump straight into it. Dylan, what's your number 10?
Holy shit.
No rigmarole. It's pretty obvious what we're doing. Head over to explosionnetwork.com to check out all our best of 2023 content, which this is a part of. But yes, Dylan, what's your number 10?
My number 10 TV series for 2023, Mrs. Davis. The wild show that came out of, when did it come out? April, February, somewhere around there. Came out at the start of the year. I remember in our discussion on What Do You Want to Watch, it was sort of like, hey, maybe this is the first good show of the year. And it held up. So, like by the end of the year, it was still a good show.
I don't know if we said that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like at the time it was like, oh, this one's. I still feel like it's highly underwatched. I don't know. I still that feeling of, was this show a thing we dreamt up? Was it really on TV? I don't recall anyone else
talking about it. It came out in
about
April.
There you go.
And I'm saying there's probably some other shows that came out earlier in the year that are on your list, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably true. But it is a wild show. I don't really know how to explain it to anyone other than, it sounds like a joke every time you try and describe it of, hey, it's a nun and she's dating Jesus and she's trying to take down AI. That's the show.
She's really the hero we need now.
Yeah, really.
Right.
From one of the people that did Lost.
Yes. So my number 10 is Blue Eye Samurai, the animated series on Netflix, following a samurai who is the offspring of a white person, which is kind of a taboo in Japan, where this is obviously set. And that samurai sets out to exact revenge on that white man by aiming to kill the 4 white men who were in Japan at the time of her birth. Just a beautifully choreographed TV show. Really compelling characters, compelling action sequences, beautifully animated. It's got a really unique style to it. And yeah, just really well told series. Got one of my favorite episodes of the year. And yeah, just bold, just willing to go all the way. Very bloody, very adult. It is a good time. So check out Blue Eyed Samurai on Netflix. Dylan, what's number 9?
Number 9 on my list is the Prime Video series Deadlock, because it's set in Tassie.
Okay, my number 9 is.
So this show is I feel like it's that thing of like, you have to watch the first couple episodes and then you're either going to vibe with it or not, because it's definitely falls into that dark, weird comedy style where you've got one character who's just playing the murders very seriously, one of the detectives, and she's like, regular cop living down here like near Hobart, where they're like, this dead body turns up on the beach, and then they send down this other cop from fucking Queensland, WA, wherever it was, somewhere hot, because they turn up in flip-flops and boardies, and they're just that was in Northern Territory. They just turn up and they're like, they're a cartoon character, like they're and you're either going to vibe with this, just the way they play off each other, or be like, I don't get it. Like, I don't, like, I can understand if people are like, I don't understand how this is funny, but I found it very funny. I found all the characters in this quite amusing. I really feel like if you stick with it right through to the end, you sort of, weirdly, that character, Eddie, who you would think is got nothing to them other than one-liners and just being ridiculous, actually turns out to have a lot more of intrigue. So definitely was a surprise hit for me this year, Deadlock, but a lot of fun.
All right. My number 9 is Schmigadoon season 2. It's called Schmigadoon, a musical comedy series. The first season was saw Cecily Strong and Keegan Michael Key played 2 doctors who get trapped in a musical town uh, inspired by like the 1940s, 1950s musical. This season, they're kind of sick of their like routine lives, so they aim to go back to Schmigadoon. But the town has changed, and it's now Schmicago, a town more inspired by the darker musicals of the 1970s and the 1980s, where there's people talking about maybe eating orphans and people just being murdered left and right, pretty much. Um, is a lot of fun. There's so many fantastic musical numbers in this series. At least one memorable one an episode. So, I mean, that is a very impressive strike rate. Really great ensemble cast. Really fun satire of or like comedy about the source material that they're trying to tackle. So, um, yeah, Schmigadoon. That's the show that I think is probably underwatched and underappreciated. You know, it's on Apple TV Plus, so check out Schmigadoon. It's great. Dylan, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is The Last of Us.
Wow.
Obviously, one of the most talked about shows of the year. Love the video game and the sequel, of course. I think the show is good. I definitely feel like it has more ups and downs than like every episode's at least good, but I think in retrospective and the further we got from it, I was more like, oh, I don't know, like I really like this show, but it's definitely not like it's not like compared to something like what Mason did before with like Chernobyl or whatever. Like it's definitely nowhere near on that caliber. And like looking back on the year, I'm like, as much as I enjoyed The Last of Us, maybe it is in part because I've played the game several times and stuff. It just I didn't want to put it quite as high as some other things from this year. Still very good though, obviously.
Yeah, to make the top 10, still going to be very good.
Yeah.
Number 8 on my list is Mrs. Davis. It is a batshit crazy episode show that changes episode by episode. There is not only is it about a nun who's dating Jesus and fighting AI, there's also like a secret base of men trying to fight against AI who are all like giving off homosexual vibes. They also have to infiltrate the Vatican at one point. There is a whole series of events revolving around the Holy Grail, which may or may not cause people's heads to explode. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff in this season, this series, which is unfortunately been cut short because they're only doing the one season. But yeah, it was a wild ride, and I enjoyed every single minute of it. It's just, yeah, just kookiness, but done right. So I thoroughly enjoyed Miss Davis. Dylan, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Shrinking, the feel good Apple TV Plus series of the year. Sort of replaces that Ted Lasso spot, I suppose, where previously would sort of have that as the Apple TV Plus feel good show. Makes sense that two people from Ted Lasso are involved in this in the writers' room and creators, but yeah. It's really funny. The whole idea behind it is just obviously Jason Segel's character is a therapist who needs therapy, and he's bad at his job because he needs therapy, and he decides to just break all the rules of therapy. And then you've got Harrison Ford in this being his regular grumpy self, but also being the funniest he's probably ever been in anything, at least that I've seen. All other characters are great. It's filled with lots of heartfelt moments, but most of the time it is just very funny. And I can't wait for season 2.
Done. My number 7 is also Shrinking.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah, fantastic series. Jaden Segel plays his role as the guy who's hit rock bottom, who isn't necessarily bad at therapy, but is still coming to terms with the death of his wife, and trying to work his way back up, but is taking the approach of honesty is the best, honesty to the extreme, and just telling people exactly what they need to hear, instead of getting them to where they need to figure out their own problems, come to the realization of their own problems, which may or may not cause problems in the future. Like you said, Harrison Ford is fantastic, probably the reason to watch this show, even though it's got a stellar ensemble cast. He is more committed to this than I've seen him in anything in recent memory, and he is hilarious. Like, regularly getting the biggest laughs in any scene, or yeah, just his delivery and timing, commitment. He did, as I keep pointing out. There's an excellent scene where he's singing Sugar Rays every morning, which is a delight.
Mhm.
And raises this show up to a top 10 status. But I also love Ted McKinley, Derek, Liz's husband, who's just a scene stealer as well. Eat a dick, Pam. Tell him what's number 6.
My number 6 is Colin from Accounts, which is one of, I think, 2 shows looking at my list that do fall in having released right at the end of 2022, but in our rules for Exposure
Oh,
Network
okay.
sort of fits in that.
So you're working on technicality.
I'm working on our rules for our explosionetwork.com voting if it falls between a certain release date. It came out in December. So but I mean, it came out like 6+ months later in America, which apparently it's popular in America. I can't remember what channel put out in America, but some people say
Yeah, I
it's quite popular. So.
saw Jeff Canado, who I'm a long time follower of, talking about it, piping it up. So
there you go. So
very positive.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember which place picked it up, but it's funny. It's one of those things.
Paramount, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so Colin from Accounts, very funny. It's an Australian series it's a classic tale of a girl flashing a guy, the guy hitting a dog, and then the two of them dealing with the the dog, I guess. And yep, sort of how it works. But I mean, that's sort of the pitch for the show. It's you got this guy played by Patrick Bramall, who is he works at like a brewery, no, like a bar. It's not a bar. It's like a I don't know, whatever. He looks at like a bar brewery place where he makes his own, like, I don't know, what do you call like fancy beers? Like craft beers. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's all. And then Harriet Dyer, who they're like married in real life or whatever, and they're the creators of the show too. She's a nurse. Well, no, she's like a nurse in training. But yeah, they hit this dog. They decide to look after the dog. Oh no, they try to take it to the vet in the first episode, and then they're like, it's going to cost like 10 grand to fix the dog, and they're like, well, fuck that. Oh no, hold on, he pays it. And then she's like, okay, well, I have to help. And then awkward scenarios ensue. It's very funny. It stuck with me all the way through to the end of this year, where I'm still like, that was probably one of the funniest things I watched in the last 12 months. So, yeah, very keen for a season 2 and glad to have seen it's found an audience outside of Australia. It's very first binge original as well. Was the thing at the time. First binge original series, and it's now doing well in America. So there you go.
All right. My number 6 is Poker Face, the Ryan Johnson created, Natasha Lyonne starring, I don't know, murder of the week mystery, which Natasha Lyonne plays a Charlie, a person who can just tell when people are lying. She just has an innate ability. So yeah, she's very unlucky in that every week she happens to stumble into a situation where someone has been murdered, and slowly over the course of the episode figures out what actually happened and solves the mystery. It's a great mystery show. I guess it's not a whodunit because we as the audience know who done it. Like at the start of each episode, they clearly show you how it happened and who did it. So, but yeah, Natasha Lyonne's like fantastic. The show's really well written. Fantastic guest stars every single week. Really interesting, fascinating situations that Charlie winds up in every week, and then there's the ongoing threat of someone going after her the entire season. So, Poker Face, another show I'm eagerly anticipating another season of. Yeah, so that's my number 6. Dylan, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Happy Valley season 3.
Wow.
I watched all of Happy Valley this year, right up to the 3rd season. I kept seeing the 3rd season being quite popular and people talking about it. I was like, you know what? I'll check this show out. I like a good detective thing. Police drama, when done good. And yeah, this one is very good. So it's like yeah, I think the first season came out in 2014, and yeah, the third season was this past year. So
It's
they were,
British, so
yeah, they just spaced them out. They
they
fucking
do it
do what they
whenever they
want.
feel like
You know,
it. Yeah.
yeah, they're only like 6 episodes each, and they still take years to make them. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking knock them out when we need. But yeah, it's very good. I don't want to say too much about the third season because I'd say like if you're like me and you've never heard of this really until I'm telling you, yeah, I'd highly suggest it if you like the idea of like British police drama. Basically, the pitch, I guess, for the first season, as much as I'm saying the third season was my thing, is you've got the main character, Catherine Kaywood, yeah, she's her prior to the event of the show, this dude called Tommy Lee Royce, who was her daughter's quote unquote boyfriend, raped her, and then she killed herself when she had a child, and then he's gone to prison. And at the start of the first season, he's getting out, and she hasn't told her grandson why her mother killed herself, or why, or who the dad is, and all this sort of stuff. And he doesn't know he even has a child. She doesn't know that like that she had a child and then killed herself because of all these sorts of things. So that sort of plays out. Each season has a connecting story between that character Tommy Lee Royce plus her grandson and her and this like family dynamic. It all plays out as that like the core value, but then there's also each season has a different like intertwining police case. Like there's always like one other case that's sort of playing throughout it all as well. On top of that, she's having to help solve and stuff like that. So it's very good. The acting's fantastic by everyone in it. It's not an action packed police show. Don't expect much. Like there's a couple of shootouts and whatever else, but it's mostly just like fantastic performances and people yelling at each other and crying and stuff like that. So if that sounds good, watch the first season and watch the third one, or watch the second one as well, I guess. But
All right. My number 5 is Silo, the Apple TV series starring Rebecca Ferguson, which she's living in a post-apocalyptic future where everybody's living underground in giant silos, but maybe there's a bigger mystery at foot. Yeah, just a very fascinating world to live in and to experience over the course of the 10-episode season. Just kind of explaining how this world works, their traditions, and how kind of getting into why they don't want any old artifacts from before the silo was created, and like how do they keep everything in the silo running, and like there's this big fuck off engine at the bottom of the silo and shit. So on top of that, there's like this weird mystery about like who's behind everything at the silo, who's actually running everything. A bunch of murders are happening, so there's all these different threads that play out over the season. I think they do a very good job of like kind of bringing them all together, and then leaving off again with an awesome endpoint that desperately want to watch more. Yeah, and just a really fascinating series. Opens really interestingly in that like the first episode is kind of very you could see it as very standalone in that it focuses on a lot of characters that you don't see ever again for one reason or another. But yeah, Silo was a show that had like a really interesting buzz at the start of the year, and no, don't see as many people talking about it now, but I thoroughly enjoyed it while I was watching it. So yeah, that's my number 5. Dylan, what's your number 4?
my number 4 is probably my biggest surprise year, which was Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. A series I was always going to be keen to watch because I really, really like Scott Pilgrim, like the comic and then the movie. But I definitely went into this going, I don't know, like, do I really need to see another version of this story? It's probably not going to do much for me. And it, they really did a good job at not giving away what it's actually going to be like. Because again, I don't know. The spoiler barrier on this is, I know everyone's still talking about it, but if you for somehow haven't dodged the spoilers for the Scott Pilgrim Takes Off yet, and you're sort of like me and we're like, I don't know, surely it won't be that good. It breaks all expectations, I would say. It's very, very, very good.
Done. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is also my number 4.
Whoa,
Scott Pilgrim versus the World is like in my top 5 movies of all time. I love it that much. And then to have this come out and you're like, I'm very excited to see another adaptation of that source material. Maybe something a little bit truer, maybe a little more accurate to the comic books, and maybe it doesn't go in that direction, and it's the better for it. It's its own unique thing. It gives them an opportunity to explore a lot of the characters that they didn't explore in either the movie or the comics in a certain way. Um, it is incredibly animated. Science Saru, I'm sure, are going to be getting a lot of work in the future because all the fight sequences look impeccable. Um, just there's so much enjoy, like crazy silliness in this as well. Whether you've got Ninja Paparazzi or uh, Todd Ingram getting upset about his love life and other bizarre, wacky. There's robots. It's weird. It's a good time. Great soundtrack as well, with both the songs in the actual show plus the soundtrack that was taken almost completely from the video game. Yeah, it's just a great package. Yeah. So that's my number 4. Dylan, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Silo.
Wow.
I really, really enjoyed Silo. It sort of ticks a lot of boxes for stuff I like, which is dark, moody sci-fi shit, I guess. I don't know. Like, definitely falls into a genre where like this felt like a Dylan show. Just lots of characters not smiling for a long time. Rebecca Ferguson, I think, is very, very good in it, sort of in an underrated way. I really love and because the thing is, like, her character in the modern day, it's like she's just pissed off. She's like looking for answers or whatever, like that sort of stuff. But I just love how she's able to do this dynamic where the flashbacks, where she's like happy and everything like that with a certain character. I think there's like a big dynamic in her performance there that I think goes a little bit underappreciated. Tim Robbins is fantastic in this as well, of course. David Yellow, yep, I think so. Really, really good for the time we get it. Ian Glenn, of course. Like, there's all these really fantastic performances, but yeah, just the overall world of the silo itself. It's how it works. It's the way it explains what people do, like these runners, like transporting stuff, the different areas where people work on different parts, like sort of, and the culture between different parts of the silo and how that even changes. And then there's just the whole thing about going outside and cleaning and like how that all plays out across the season and stuff. So yeah, I really, really love this series, and like I can't wait for the second season.
All right. My number 3 is The Last of Us. So as someone who never played the video games, but had watched like the story, and that's at least it's now in a format that I can feel comfortable watching it. Even though because there's not that many clickers. Yeah, just the best video game adaptation to date. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are fantastic as Ellie and Joel. Make the roles their own. They don't not necessarily exact replicas of the video game versions of those characters, and that's fine. Also, great performances from a lot of the ensemble cast. The people who drop in, they kind of expand the world in interesting ways. And of course, you've got that fantastic episode, Long Road, I think, off the top of my head, starring Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett. That is like one of the standout episodes of the year. Just a completely unexpected love story that, just a little bit of light and darkness, and so delightful. They nailed a lot of the big moments that I'm sure fans wanted to get nailed properly, and yeah, it was a fantastic season of television. And hopefully they don't rush into the next one.
2025, so we got a whole year.
Yeah. Dylan, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is The Fall of the House of Usher, the Mike Flanagan Netflix series for 2023. He does one every year. This year's is based on Edgar Allan Poe short stories, taking The Fall of the House of Usher as like the main one, and then intertwining a bunch of other Edgar Allan Poe shorts within this story, which is done really smart. But the crux, the basis is basically it's this ultra rich sort of obviously asshole. Picture any of the big elites in the world. It's sort of like that. You've got Roderick Usher at the head of it, and he's got a bunch of kids, some of them bastards or whatnot. But at the end of the day, he's like, anyone in Usher is an Usher. Sort of what, like, once you're in sort of scenario. He runs a whole family dynasty with his sister, Madeline, and they kids start dying, one by one in different sorts of weird fashion, and it sort of all ties back to this character played by Carla Gugino, and the mystery around her, and if she has something to do from the brother and sister's past when they were younger, and how that all comes in. But yeah, there's just so many great characters in this, and like Rahul Kohli falling into the Flanagan family has been one of my favorite things, because he's every series he's done so far of him, he's had this fantastic character playing fantastic performance. Henry Thomas is great in everything he does with him. Kate Siegel, his wife, or Mike Flanagan's wife, never has a bad role, but that's because she's fantastic. But yeah, ultra shout out for this series would be Mark Hamill, who I adore in this, just playing, he's like the one man army for the Roderick for the Usher family, where it's like, hey, he's their lawyer, he's their like secret detective, he's their fucking like bodyguard. He's like, he's always in the background. Whenever he speaks, it's just with this ultra dry like Mike Hamill delivery, and he's just like such a presence on screen. I love him in it. So yeah, I mean, I just love nearly everything Mike Flanagan does. So just sort of hits a nerve for me. But yeah, this was really, really good.
All right. My number 2 is Succession season 4. The massive, American capitalist tragic comedy comes to an end. Yeah, just a fantastic series that now's the ending. Yeah, this was just one of those shows that I watched, like, it was appointment viewing every single week. And then on top of like watching the episode, devoured like the behind the scenes footage, that the piece that they would release that week, and then there'd be at least 2 or 3 podcasts I listened to about each episode. That's the kind of show this was, that you wanted to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions on every facet of the show. Yeah, just it is the American modern day Game of Thrones. And
modern day Game of Thrones.
It's the yeah. But they didn't upset everybody with how it ended. It ended succinctly. Yeah, just a show that was willing to take incredible risks this season, like made some very bold choices in its direction. Incredibly shot, like some of the crazy stuff they chose to do to try and get the best performances out of the actors. It was really compelling. Yeah, it just ended so well that which is seemingly very difficult to do. So yes, that's my number 2. Dylan, what is your number 1?
My number 1 is White Lotus season 2, which ended like, I think basically November 30th or December 1st or something last year, or the year before. But anyway, it falls into our category. The show's just so
I'm
good.
really going to look forward to listening back to last year's episode.
Why?
If you've got both of these in there.
And you know what? I don't care. Because 12 months later, what a show. Obviously, if you haven't watched White Lotus, it's not really about anything in particular. It's about this. The first season was supposed to be a one and done, and they were like, we'll do season 2. And even I was a bit like, I don't know, like, I hate this like whole like, usually if you turn a limited series into an actual series, it turns to shit, because that's not really like, you didn't set out to make a story. But Mike White took the like, well, the show's just about people interacting in a hotel and the dynamics, and some of them are really evil sort of rich fuckwits, and some of them aren't, and some of them just have money and they're not fuckwits, and let's see how all these people intermingle with the hotel staff and whatever else. It's like season 2 is just set at a different White Lotus hotel, and here's a bunch of new characters other than Jennifer Coolidge, who's there as well, because apparently a character does nothing but go on holidays, which is great because she's fantastic. And then in comes a bunch of other characters, including one played by like Audrey Plaza's in this season, and Theo James, and they hate each other, and it was great. And then who else is in this? Haley Lou Richardson plays a character who I sort of hate, but also don't hate. But she's really annoying. But I sort of like feel bad for her. And then you got these brand new introductions of like Simona Tabasco, who's did such a great performance in this that she pretty much got signed to a major like American like PR, whatever you call it, like a agency, sorry, like
Agency,
a agency picked her up
talent
pretty much
agency,
following
yeah.
this. Yeah, talent agency picked her up pretty much straight after the like halfway through this season airing and stuff like that. So it's fantastic. It's just delves into a certain psyche. It's just so well written, so well shot. The music's fantastic. There's like so much like imagery and stuff that's played off the background. I feel like I could watch it and still not understand all of it, which is great because you don't really need to. You could watch this half drunk and still sort of enjoy it, like, but or you can dive deeper into some of the other parts of it. But yeah, I love it. I'll also shout out to the Michael Imperoli from. I mean, I most know him from The Sopranos, I guess, but his whole family in this, and it's just like a bunch of, it's like him, his dad, and his son, and like the dynamic between them three on holidays is something interesting. But yeah, White Lotus season 2, I don't care. Fuck your rules. It's great.
It's also the best show next year.
Best show next year too, somehow. This year, best show 2024.
My number one is The Bear season 2. The fantastic comedy / drama. Who knows what it is? About
not a comedy. It's not a comedy. I refuse this. It's not.
Listen, Dylan, if they say they're a comedy, you need to respect their preferred pronouns, accept that they're a comedy. Yeah, just a fantastic show, like beautifully written, really great performances. This season really interesting that kind of allowed all the different characters from that were kind of fighting against each other, kind of growing this season, developing their own personal abilities, kind of leveling up, I guess, in the lead up to reopening the restaurant. This season has like 2 of the best episodes of television of the year, back to back in Fishes and Forks. Just
what names?
Yeah, what names? Yeah, just it is some of the best television on TV at the moment. The food looks fantastic. It can be incredibly tense at times, and it is funny at various points as well. You know, there is a lot of stuff you can laugh at, even if it's like awkwardly. And yeah, this season they managed to get a bunch of cool guest stars in as well, who must have loved the first season as well, like Jamie Lee Curtis and Olivia Colman and Will Poulter. Crazy. So yeah, that's my number one show of 2023, released mid 2023. So there's no doubts. Dylan, let's do this week's top 3.
Definitely in the top 3.
This week's top 3 is top 3 honourable mentions. So Dylan, this year have you gone like 11 through 13 or like?
No, I've just picked 3 random ones.
Okay, so yeah, I've got similar shows that I would like to get highlighted more. So yes, Dylan, what's your number 3?
Number 3 is Poker Face, a show that I have really, really enjoyed, and I've just never got a chance to go back and watch the last few episodes. So,
you've got some treats sitting there on Stan.
On Stan, that's right, I do. So I have to go back and finish off that show because, yeah, it just sort of fell through for whatever reason. I just never. And there's definitely been times where I could have watched it, but I was like, yeah, but I kind of want to pay attention. Like I could have put it on while doing something else, you know, like doing work. But I'm like, it's not an and doing work show, you know. It's not an and while I'm trying to sit here and do stuff. Like I want to give it my full attention. So
it's not a content show.
Yeah, it's not a content show. It's so it sort of just fell through the cracks because of that. Do you just want me to do my full 3, or
yeah, you can do your full 3 if that. What do you want to do?
Okay, then I have Bump season 3. Really enjoyed. Obviously, this is one of my favorite shows. I usually shout it out every single year at some point in this podcast or this list. Didn't quite make my top 10, but the 3rd season did a time jump where their kids now like 6 or something. I can't remember. But anyway, she's like a little girl now, instead of a little baby. So that adds a different dynamic to it, and a bunch of other characters have obviously aged up, like jobs are out of school now and stuff. And I really love this choice to sort of do a time jump. I think it helped so much. They would have got stuck in a rut trying to play through the rest of their school years 1 year after time. So I think it was really smart to do the jump. Really enjoyed that. Season 4 just come out. Haven't got a chance to go fully through that yet, but Bump continues to be one of my favorite shows every year. And then I'll continuing on the Australian train, Auntie Donna's Coffee Cafe, which is, I mean, I just love Auntie Donna. They're like weird, absurdist, ridiculous, I don't know what you want to call it, comedy at times. And this show is all of that. I mean, it's got some really funny skits. It's got some ridiculous moments. It's very funny. I don't know if they're doing a second season. I don't know. I guess that was up to ABC because it was an ABC show. But, like they did that Netflix show. Nothing came of that for a second one. Now there's ABC one, but very different. But they're both just wacky and wild and had some very funny jokes in it, including a real estate awards and like this really like terrible bachelor party.
This one a lot more Australia focused.
Yeah, definitely a lot more Australia focused. But yeah, lots of laughs from me. So, they're my 3 shout-outs. Honorable mentions.
All right, my top 3 honorable mentions. Number 3, The After Party, season 2. Was a fantastic comedy on Apple TV Plus, based around a murder the season, where Tiffany Haddish comes in with Sam Richardson and solve, like, kind of interview everybody kind of around the murder, the night of the murder, and like piecing together through their retelling of a series of events, but everybody tells the series events in like a different genre of show. Just a really well put together show, really compelling mystery, and like kind of trying to piece all the pieces together to can you figure it out before the show tells you who the actual murderer is kind of show. So that was really enjoyable, and kind of disappointed we're not going to get more, but it's probably for the best because I don't know if they could have kept the quality up. My second honorable mention, One Piece, the live action adaptation of the long running manga series, which of course was a massive success on Netflix. Amazing casting, I think, is the key thing. Like, they managed to nail every single one of the key Straw Hat Pirates. They are able to like kind of adapt it in a way that was very respectful to the source material, but also kind of worked for a larger audience. Like kind of made it very mainstream and accessible. It was just very, very visually impressive for a show that is obviously set on the ocean, which isn't necessarily the
I mean, it's barely on the ocean, to be fair.
There's a lot of islands.
A lot of land.
They're inside the ships a lot. So, but yeah, it was a really well done series. Excited for another season. And then my number 1 is Double Fine Psych Odyssey, which is a multi-part YouTube series that they did release during the release. Like, it was a Patreon thing not Patreon. It was like a backer
Kickstarter
reward
thing or whatever.
Kickstarter reward that finally got released to the public this year, of the making of Psychonauts 2. I think it is must watch for any gamer to like kind of understand the gaming development process, what goes into making video games, why these things are kind of taking so long now. Remember, this is like a platformer, not a massive open world game. And all the like different facets that kind of go into it, just a lot of the interesting people who make the video games, and like the kind of how if the right dynamic of people aren't there, that things can quickly fall apart or go to shit. So yes, just a very fascinating watch, even if you haven't played Psychonauts like me. So those are my honorable mentions. Let us know what your top 10 TV shows of 2023 are by going to explosion.com/Twitter or jump to our Discord at explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at What Do You Watch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars. Any Quinn, leave 5 stars. And if you've enjoyed this episode, follow us with $1. Want to help us out here at Explosion Network, head over to explosion.com/support. donate to our Ko-fi page, like a few people over the Christmas holiday break did. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Be sure to check out explosion.com for all our best of 2023 content. And until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.